Hey everyone, it's Allison here with New Little Life. I'm an internationally board certified lactation consultant, a nurse, a doula, and a mom of 3 little boys. Here on the New Little Life podcast, we'll talk with real moms about their breastfeeding experience, the good parts and the bad, and share real and practical advice about breastfeeding. Connect with and learn from other moms and professionals to help you meet your breastfeeding goals. Hey everybody, welcome back to the New Little Life podcast. This is actually our last episode in season 1, which is really cool. And this is a perfect segue into our next season, which is season 2, where we're going to be focusing on working moms, pumping life and breastfeeding life for working moms. So this is going to be really cool because today we have a chat with Jessica, and she is a mom of 2 girls. This episode was recorded a little while in the past. So my family moved overseas recently. So some of these episodes are catch up. So at the time, her little girls were 3 years old and 6 months, although they're older than that now. She's actually an active duty Air Force mom living in Europe. So she, like many moms so far on the podcast, have had different experiences with their 2 babies. She was so determined to breastfeed her first, and she really went above and beyond to make that happen. I really think you'll enjoy listening to her story, and any working moms especially will relate really well to some of her struggles. So I'm really looking forward to jumping into more working mom life stuff with you in season 2. So I hope to see you there. But please enjoy the last episode of season 1 with Jessica. Here we go. Good morning, Jessica, and welcome to the New Little Life podcast. It's actually really nice to be interviewing someone that's on the same time zone as me. So that's awesome.
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity to talk with you. I'm really excited to be here.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. Okay, can you start off and just tell us a little bit about yourself, your family, what you do? That'd be great.
Yeah, so my name is Jessica. I am active duty Air Force. I actually just hit my 5-year mark here a couple weeks ago.
Oh, cool.
I have 2 little girls, Hazel and Braylon. Braylon's 3 and then Hazel's 6 months old. And then my husband is the warehouse manager at the PX on base. So dual working family. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot to juggle. Is your older one in school? Here in Belgium, They start school a little bit earlier. So I was just wondering if she was there.
No, not yet. She is at the CDC. So she's in like the preschool type classroom now.
Cool.
Since she turned 3. So she's starting to learn a lot more. It's a little more structure, like classroom type there. So she's there for now.
Yeah, that's awesome. And your little one is there as well, I'm guessing. Have you gone back to work?
Yeah. So yes and no. We're still kind of teleworking, but for my job, because I work over on the airfield, so if we have missions that need to come in, we just rotate a standby phone. So I've gone in a few times during my week of standby, but we all kind of like monitor the computers and paperwork and stuff from home. So kind of working from home, but still a little bit in the office now too.
Okay, cool. So do you take your little one to childcare, or do you keep her home with you? I'm just curious.
I take her. So
you can actually work?
Much. Yeah. She just wants to be in my lap, and I can't like type with one hand, and it's just too much.
No, I totally get that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, let's go ahead and just jump into your breastfeeding experience. Let's start with your first one. So she's 3 now.
Yes.
But if you can remember back to the beginning, did you know that you wanted to breastfeed? Was that kind of always the plan? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I had followed for a while a previous relationship I had with somebody in the military. So I started to connect with a lot of military spouses before that, and a lot of them breastfed. So it kind of just triggered my interest, and I always knew that that was something that I wanted to do when I had kids. So fast forward to now with my husband, and when I had her, I knew that it was what I wanted to do. I took the classes with my doula to kind of get the basics out, and I felt super confident going into it, and it came with a lot of hiccups that I wasn't anticipating.
Sure.
But yeah,
just start at the beginning for us. That'd be great.
Okay. Yeah. So when she was born, I was able to have the birth that I wanted. It was unmedicated vaginal delivery, uncomplicated. So as soon as she was born, I got that immediate skin to skin, and I remember for like the first 2 hours, she just laid on me and she nursed, and it was just like her and I. And I remember my husband sitting next to the bed, just staring in awe that we had this baby. And I felt so bad because I was like, I'm not handing her to you. Like, she just needs to nurse, and we just need this time now. So when she's done, you can have her. I remember that first like nursing session was just bliss, and I thought, oh, this is going to be so easy. Like, we're going to take off. It's going to be smooth sailing. And that first night we were in the hospital, I remember she just nursed and nursed and nursed, and my nipples were just so sore, and I just remember feeling like it was just so painful every time she latched. I just cried, and I remembered finally calling in the nurses because I was in so much pain, and I've never nursed before, and the class we took kind of said there could be some pain, but it just seemed so much more than what I expected.
Yeah.
And I remember her looking at my nipples, and I had like big bruises and blisters, and she was like, oh, honey, like, we need to get you a nipple shield. You should consider using a pacifier. So we kind of switched, and I started using a nipple shield right away with her because of my pain. And I do remember that my blisters slowly turned into just like open cracks, and it made it even more painful to be nursing. And
Yeah.
I didn't know any better, so I just used the nipple shield and just thought that was normal. So I just kind of rolled with it. And then I remember probably around like 8 weeks, I finally reached out to a lactation consultant because even with the nipple shield, there was still so much pain, and she was just crying and screaming all day long. And I know when they're little like that, they're very dependent on you, but it was like she would nurse for 30 to 45 minutes, and as soon as I unlatched her, she could be asleep. She'd just start screaming, and nothing would calm her down except nursing some more. So by the time I had reached out to a lactation consultant, right around that 8 weeks, I learned she had a tongue tie, and we did a couple weighted feeds, and she would nurse for like 30 minutes, and she was maybe getting like an ounce and a half. And I just remember like sobbing because at that point it was so far in. The first 6 weeks are really when it's that supply and demand, and you just want to be nursing like as much as they need. And
Yeah.
I was doing that, but she still wasn't getting enough because of the tongue tie. So that created a supply issue, and we decided to go through with a tongue tie revision. And I remember the latch got better, and my nipples were starting to heal, and things were just starting to feel better. But I feel like at that point, my supply had already taken such a hit because if she wasn't nursing, I was trying to pump, because at that time, the job that I worked at was 12-hour shifts. It was 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. or 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And it was going to be a long time away. And I knew that I wanted at least a little bit of a supply in the freezer. So I was trying to catch up with that, but because she wasn't getting enough, we ended up supplementing what I was pumping into bottles. So I don't think I ever had more than like maybe 10 ounces in the fridge for when I went back to work.
Yeah.
So it was just a big struggle from the beginning.
Yeah, a lot of weeks really of struggling, it sounds like. Was she having a hard time gaining weight, or was she doing like okay? The schedule and routine was just a disaster?
No, she was actually, so her weight gain was pretty bad. It was like maybe an ounce or two every couple weeks. And my pediatrician at the time had said, oh, well, just start giving her formula. And I told him no. And he asked me why, and I explained, the supply and the demand, and when you replace the feeds with formula, then your supply can dip. And he's like, oh, okay, well, most women don't know that, so I guess just keep doing what you're doing. And he never suggested the lactation consultant or anything like that, so I kind of had to reach out and find that on my own.
Oh man, after 8 weeks, that's so long to be struggling that much. It's unfortunate that your healthcare providers didn't give you more direction and find you help sooner.
Yeah, it made me sad because my husband was looking at me and he's like, maybe we do just give her some formula, or, I need you to pump more. I'll be happy to give her more bottles. I just think she's hungry. And I was like, no, that can't be it. I was just, I think, too stubborn. And I was just so determined to breastfeed that I just didn't want any other option. I felt like a failure. It made me sad, but we ended up nursing until just after she turned 2. So around 6 months, I just couldn't keep up anymore. So we did end up supplementing with formula, and life got so much easier because up until that point, like I said, she was still getting those bottles with formula or breast milk that I had pumped. And she was a happier baby then. But I think adding formula finally gave me like that peace of mind. Like, even if she doesn't get enough from the breast, I can give her formula. She's still a happy baby, and there's nothing wrong with it. I remember sitting on the couch the first formula bottle I gave her and crying because I was like, I'm a woman. My body's supposed to do this. It's just supposed to happen. Why is it not doing what it's supposed to? And I did cry, and I felt like a failure at that point because I was just so determined, and I had no other experience to go off of. So I was just telling myself it was going to be easy and I was going to do it, and that was not the case.
Yeah. So looking back, I mean, wow, triple feeding is no joke. So breastfeeding at the breast, pumping, and bottle feeding is a crazy schedule to maintain.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that? And you were working, you said, correct?
Yeah. Once she was about 3 months old, I went back to work 12 hours a day.
Wow.
Yeah, so we were lucky. My husband was a stay-at-home dad while we were at that duty station, so that also made it kind of easy for me to go back because she was staying with dad, she was staying in the house, and he told me, like, when I wasn't around, and he was able to just give her that pumped milk or the formula to, like, finish up what I couldn't pump, and she was just the happiest baby. So we kind of just started rolling with the punches with her. It was a lot of work, but I just kind of got into the mindset, like I always just carried a little bit of formula and water with me when we went out, just in case when she nursed, she just didn't seem satisfied. So we would top her up with an ounce or two of formula, and she was usually good through the next feed. If we were home, I would just try to pump a little bit. I really tried finding a good pumping schedule though, especially with her, because I wanted to make sure she was getting as much from me as possible, and I didn't want to pump and not have it there for her because I was really just trying to breastfeed as much as possible.
Yeah.
So I kind of got into this groove where she was eating and sleeping really well in the middle of the night. So usually when she would wake up in the middle of the night, I'd nurse on one side and pump on the other. And that's where I got most of my ounces, was just those night pumps.
Okay.
And then I'd maybe pump right after she went to bed. And that was it. I don't think I don't remember really pumping a lot during the daytime with her, but it was just getting on that good schedule at night and just being prepared to make a bottle or to carry that extra breast milk in a bottle with me if we knew we were going to be out of the house for the day.
Oh man, that's dedication. Those middle of the night pumps are often the hardest ones for mothers. So
yes.
For you to kind of find that as your time for pumping is amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
Was there anything in particular that kind of helped you wrap your head around starting that formula? You said you waited about 6 months to do that. Was there anything that kind of helped be like, okay, I can do this, or you know what I'm saying?
I had found the lactation consultant actually through a breastfeeding support group, and I had been going so regularly, and every time I went, I would do a weighted feed, and they were getting better. You know, it wasn't an ounce and a half to 2 ounces. She would maybe get 2 or 3 pretty consistently, but it still just wasn't enough. And I just remember going and struggling so much. And that lactation consultant was always like patting me on the back. And she's like, this is the next step. This is what we can do. And I finally just kind of hit a wall. And she looked at me and she was like, you know, what we're trying isn't working as well as we'd like. And she just kind of said, like, I think formula is best, at least to supplement like that. And I remember going home and my husband sat with me when I fed her, and he was like, it's okay. You know, you're not a failure. He just really, really encouraged me because he, you know, like I said, he'd been hearing her scream so much. So he just wanted a happy baby too, but he also didn't want me to feel like breastfeeding couldn't be a thing. So he supported me in both the formula and the breast milk. And I think that was just like my huge push because we didn't have any other family or anything around. So having him be so supportive because he was able to support me in what I wanted and know that we could still have a happy baby. That was like the big support for me, I guess, that just kind of helped me know like formula is not a failure. It's just what we needed.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I'm really glad that you had such a positive support there and a lactation consultant that like there's a point where your mental and your mental status and the physical well-being of you and your baby it's not working. So you do something else. And so I'm glad that you had someone to tell you like, hey, let's consider this other option. And then a supportive husband at home. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Did you guys have a hard time getting her to take a bottle in the beginning? Or was she pretty easy?
She was so easy. I think the first time I waited like 6 weeks because that was like the breastfeeding course I took to avoid nipple confusion. And I was so
sure.
set
You
on
were
it.
doing like all the right things, like right by the book, weren't you? Oh my word. I love it.
Yeah. And like I said, because we didn't catch that tongue tie, it was like the poor kid was starving. I look back at it now and I'm like, I feel so bad. But, you know, she's a thriving 3.5-year-old. So I didn't screw up that bad. It was just for a little bit. No, you just
do the best you can with the information you have at the time. And you did an awesome job, it sounds like.
Thank you. Yeah. So, but when we did introduce that bottle, it was like as soon as she started sucking and she realized, hey, this is food and it's coming out easier and I'm getting what I need.
Yeah.
It didn't matter what type of bottle we used. She knew it was food and she took it without any issues.
That's great.
Yeah.
And then was it pretty smooth sailing after that? I mean, once that 6-month hit and you kind of switched things up, did you guys just find a good schedule? You said you nursed her till she was 2. Yeah.
Yeah. Just a couple months past 2. I think adding the formula, even though initially I was kind of bummed about it, that took so much pressure off me, feeling like I had to be attached to the pump, feeling like, is she getting enough all the time, questioning it. So it really was better for me mentally and obviously for her physically and her growth and well-being. So it was pretty smooth sailing after that. And, you know, you start introducing solids and stuff. So that kind of filled the void. She was a great eater. But I think that once I took the stress off myself, I think that's why we were able to nurse so long, because she was finally getting her nutrients somewhere else. And it didn't matter how much she got from me after 1. I was just happy that she still needed and wanted me like that. And I was able to provide for her and be that comfort.
Yeah. Did you have any problems pumping or maintaining like that schedule at work? So you went back to work at 3 months, I think you said, and then you're at active duty military. So there's a lot that goes into that. Can you talk to us about what it's like having such a heavy full-time job, especially in the military? I'd love to know some stuff about that.
It was crazy. Before I went, a big thing, if there's any other military moms or like listening to this, know your rights and know your regulations for when you go back to work. And I just made it known before I ever had the baby to like all of my leadership. I said, I plan on breastfeeding. I plan on pumping. You know, we need to come up with a space and understand like this is the allotted timeline I have and I will be leaving. And they were so amazing with it. And my last base, my job was so crazy. It was, I mean, we were dealing with 25 to 100 flights a day on our airfield. Like,
wow.
It was always crazy. So sometimes stepping away, like I didn't hit right at my 3-hour mark. Sometimes it was a little bit after or before. But they gave me a chair and I had a fridge and like a little stand, but it was just really making sure that I was prepared every night just because I worked so long. I remember coming home and I'd get home at 6 and bedtime was at 7, and it would just be like, spent that hour with the baby, and then it was feeding and bathing myself, and then it was heading to the kitchen to clean and sanitize all my pump parts and my bottles and repack my pumping bag and make sure that I have every piece and extras if I need it, and making sure that that was next to my work bag. So when I got to work the next day, I could just go plug my pump in the room that I sat in and have everything set up and just ready to go. So that way, in between me being out on the airfield and, checking the runways and stuff and just doing my job and taking the phone calls, I could just run into that room, lock the door for my 20, 30 minutes, pump, go clean my parts, and then I was just back to work right away.
Wow.
So,
did you ever feel bad about like leaving and going to pump? I know some moms, like it's hard to step away because you want to do a good job and you like your work and you need to be there. Was it ever hard to just be like, be right back. Good luck, guys, while I'm gone?
Yeah, it depended on the day. Sometimes I was like we'd be in the middle of something just like mass chaos, and I would just try my best to really stay as long as I could and just finish up what I was doing, so I didn't leave like that person high and dry to kind of deal with things on their own. But sometimes it had just been too long, and I was like, I'm really sorry, but if you need me, like you can come knock on the door and I'll just yell the answers through the door. Like I'll help you as much as I can. And but like I said, I discussed it so much before, and I worked with a lot of like younger married couples that didn't have kids yet or hadn't really been exposed to it. So I just really tried to talk about it a lot so they knew where I was going and they understood it wasn't me just trying to like dip out on work and leave them. But they all used to kind of giggle, and the one guy in my office used to say, Newman's going to milk herself now. So that was it just was like a shop joke. It was just lighthearted. So they didn't really, take it to heart, and they understood that I needed to do it. So I think just being open like that really helped it not be like an inconvenience too much to anybody.
Yeah, that's great advice, actually. Just the more you talk about it and the more normal it seems to you, the more normal it can seem to other people, for sure.
Yes.
All right, so let's talk about your second one. So you had your little one just a week after I had my third one. So they're both about 6 months old. Mm-hmm. Tell us about that one. So you had this baby overseas.
Yep.
Is that a different experience than your first one?
Yeah. So my first one, because she was born in Japan, but it was a U.S. Naval hospital on base. So everything was just like
it's like kind of tiny America over there on the base in Japan. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So here it was a little bit different. I did pick a doctor who's British, so she spoke really good English. And the hospital I went to, most of like the nurses and midwives and everybody running around also spoke English, because that was a big thing I was scared of, is like, what if there's a complication or something and somebody in the room,
language barrier for sure.
Yeah, can't express that to me. So, but I really loved everything about the hospitals here, and they were very hands off, because I remember with my oldest, they were in every like 2 hours, waking the baby up, checking her, changing diapers, temperatures. It was just chaos. And here, after I had my youngest, they were like, oh, the baby's sleeping. Okay, just buzz us when she wakes up. And I remember there was one point they came in for like a weight check or something, and she slept for like 8 hours, and I just let her be, and they didn't pop their heads in once. So it was like a completely different experience having her here, but they were very like pro breastfeeding and pro like unmedicated and vaginal delivery. And they really just tried to kind of leave you and your body to do what it, were made to do, and tried not to introduce other stressors that sometimes you see in American hospitals, which I really liked. I felt like it was a much more peaceful and calm experience this time.
Yeah, that was my experience here as well. So how did breastfeeding go right away? I mean, so there is a little bit of a language barrier. I think they do have some lactation help at that hospital you delivered at, but again, a lot of it's in French. So how did it go the second time? Was it easier for you? What resources did you utilize?
So I was very, very nervous because of how rocky things were with my oldest, and I really wanted it to work this time. Another unmedicated, uncomplicated vaginal delivery. I was able to have that skin to skin right away with her. And I remember with my oldest, she was like rooting and I didn't know. And my doula was like, oh, she's ready to nurse. Well, with my youngest, I'm doing skin to skin. And she almost started to do like the breast crawl, which was just amazing to me because I don't really remember any of that with my youngest or my oldest. And she latched right away, and I was like, okay, this is the beginning. Here we go. Let's just see how it goes. And I was prepared this time. I brought my own nipple shields. I had the nipple balm. I found these, I think they're like hydrogel pads, and you can put them in the fridge and you apply them after nursing sessions.
Oh,
and it keeps your nipple from like rubbing against your shirt, and then it's cooling. I love that. So I was sore, but it was more that fresh, like your baby needs to be nursing all the time. And it was just the soreness from your nipples getting used to it this time. I didn't have the blisters or the cracking or the bleeding. I used the nipple shield when I was in pain. Like I'd start a session with it and then maybe take it off partway through. But my youngest she kind of shied away from it. Like if I put the nipple shield in her mouth, she didn't really know what to do with it. So most of the time I just kind of had to tough through this time around, where my oldest would just take it without a problem. But I did start going to the breastfeeding group out here. I reached out, or our lactation consultant reached out to me after maybe I'd been home a week. And she was like, would you like to come in? And I knew better this time. So I was like, yes, tell me as soon as I can come in.
Yeah.
I want her checked for the tongue ties. I want to do a weighted feed. I want to see where her weight is. So I had everything assessed like right away with her. And I was even in the hospital. I would just buzz the nurses in every so often just to make sure, because it's been so long. I wanted to make sure her latch was looking good. They did as much as they could for me in like, checking to make sure her lips were flared and all that. So I had the help in the hospital before we were discharged. And then I went straight to a lactation consultant this time around after we were home for a couple of days and kind of settled in, which I think I can't encourage people enough. Like my friends that have breastfed, I've always just said, ask for help before you think there's a problem. If you can identify it sooner, you can save your supply. You can save weeks of pain and suffering, literally. Just have somebody keep an eye on it or look, because there's so much going on that you don't realize. It's just better to get a professional in from the outside and just to take a peek and make sure that they're like breaking things down for you. Because when I was seeing the lactation consultant, I was like, I feel like she's eating too much still sometimes. And she was kind of doing like those half feeds where she'd eat a little and then stop, or I didn't feel like she was pulling enough. And I had to be reminded, I have breastfed before, but this new baby has not. So where I would start to get kind of lazy with the latch because I just knew what I was doing, the baby still needed some of that more strict, like fixing of the flaring on the lips and, getting her to latch properly. So I just had to kind of remind myself to slow down and work with the baby more to make sure that this was going to be successful this time.
I think that's fantastic advice. Like, even if things are going well, go see a lactation professional in the first week. And even just things are going great. Even if for them to just say, yeah, that looks really good. Baby's gaining weight. You're doing great, is not a wasted visit. You know what I mean? Imagine the confidence that a new mom would feel having a professional say, you are doing awesome. Keep going. Like, that to me is worth $1 million. You know what I mean? Or if there is some problems, catch them really early so that you're not at that 8-week mark going, this is a disaster. How do I fix this? You know what I mean? Exactly. I mean, as a lactation consultant, it is so much easier to catch problems when they're tiny problems and just fix them than when it's a huge thing. Yeah.
Yeah, you get into those habits and you don't realize it. And now your baby's used to the lazy latch and they're not pulling a lot of milk because it's not exactly right. And you've just let it go on. So yeah, I tell all my friends, even if you because I took a breastfeeding class, I felt unstoppable with my oldest. And I was just so stubborn. I was like, no, I know what's going on. Like this can't be the problem. If I would have just fixed it in those early days, we could have eased so much, like so many of the problems that we had. So I always encourage people, just ask. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah. And pivot when you need to. Like formula is not the worst thing in the world. And sometimes it really can relieve a lot of stress and pressure. Now, I don't usually recommend introducing formula just to like everybody, especially if you have long-term breastfeeding goals. But it's not a bad thing. It doesn't make you a failure. Sometimes it can really help in a short term, especially, and I'm grateful that we have it.
Yes. Yeah, it was a wild ride with the formula, but yeah, it's not a bad thing. And I feel like, culturally we go so much back and forth between breast is best and just give the baby formula. There's so much in between. You just have to do what is going to work for you. And yeah, like you said, you can't feel bad about it. Sometimes it's just what you need short term, and it can formula saved my nursing relationship with my oldest daughter. So I have nothing bad to say about it.
Oh, that's wonderful. Have you given a bottle to your new little one? Oh, I'm assuming you have since you've gone back to work a little bit. How did that go?
So the first, I waited this time I think I did like 3 or 4 weeks because nursing was going so well. She was gaining weight. My husband really just wanted to give her a bottle, and my oldest daughter too, the new baby, she wants to feed her. She thinks she's a little doll. So we did a bottle a little early, and she took it no problem. But because of COVID and me being on maternity leave, I was able to actually take an extra month. So I had 4 months off this time. So we were giving her about a bottle a month, and she had taken them without problems. And a couple weeks before I went back, I switched to the bottles that I bought a ton of because my oldest took it, and that's what the little one's going to take, right? Wrong. I gave it to her, and she fought the bottle and screamed the whole time. But she ended up, after maybe like 20, 30 minutes, she took the couple ounces that was in there. So I was like, okay, cool. Waited. Now I'm 2 weeks out from going back to work, and I go to give her a bottle again. And she's not having it. She is screaming bloody murder. You put it in her mouth. She doesn't know what to do with it. She's thrashing. It got to the point where I was trying at least 1 bottle a day because I was like, I have to go back to work. And out here, I work on the base with the airfield, but the base that she's going to daycare on is like a 30-minute drive.
Yeah.
So it's not like I can just leave really quick to go nurse her. And my job's not very conducive with that just because it is based on when an airplane needs to come or go. So it's not like I can just leave my paperwork and come back. So I was trying like a bottle a day for those last 2 weeks, and it got to the point where she would see it and she'd start screaming, and you would get it near her and she would throw her head back, and she was actually swatting at the bottle, like hitting it away from her face.
Because, oh, jeez Louise.
Yeah. So I was like panicking, and I tried the whole, oh, you leave and don't even be in the house and let dad do it. I left for an hour, and she had just taken a 3-hour nap. So I knew she was going to be hungry. And I was like, I'm just going to run this errand. She just woke up. Try the bottle. My husband tried for an hour. She would not take it. It just wasn't working. I spent $40 on 1 bottle that people swore by. It was textured to mimic a breast. It was skin tone color like a breast. It was supposed to flow like one. Yeah, she wanted nothing to do with it. So that first week, officially back, I dropped her off with an array of bottles, and I was like, I don't even know what's going to work anymore. I don't know if it's a narrow nipple, a wide one. I hope this works. Here's my milk. Okay, call me if she doesn't eat. And those first few days back, she would not eat. They called me right around the 5-hour mark from when I said she'd eaten last, and they're like, hey, can you please come feed her? She's hungry. And I just remember going in, and she had, you could see a little bit of snot from her crying and a little bit of puffy eyes because she was upset. But they said, she wasn't screaming bloody murder. They're like, she's the happiest hungry baby we've ever seen.
Yeah.
But we know she's hungry. And I remember picking her up, and I was sobbing in my car while I was nursing her. And then I just walk her back in and drop her off because I'm like, you need to get into this schedule. I didn't know what to do,
we can't keep doing this. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Overwhelming.
And this isn't like a normal job where I can be like, hey, my kid's not eating, so I quit. I'm tied to a contract. I can't just leave.
Yeah.
So I'm like, we have to figure this out. So I ended up seeing the pediatrician and another lactation consultant to see if we could get some tricks to get her to take the bottle. And I remember taking off the Thursday, Friday, the last 2 days that week because it just wasn't working. Mm-hmm. And I remember dropping her off Friday after seeing the lactation consultant. And we were like, I don't know what's going on. Just I keep trying, I guess. And I dropped her off and I said, I feel silly doing this because she's not eating. So I was like, I guess call me in a couple hours when she hasn't eaten again. And they didn't call me. And I went to pick her up for her normal pickup time. And she chugged 3 bottles like it was nothing. So I don't know what changed in her, but we went through so many bottles. Like every time I went to the store, I was picking up this $5 one, maybe the $2 cheap one, maybe the $15 one. And it wasn't happening. So I was full panic and stress. And she was just a determined, starving little child who really just wanted a boobie.
So was it like a particular bottle that she ended up liking, or did she just like realize, okay, my mom's not joking. If I want to eat, I'm going to have to do this?
I think that was part of it, but she ended up taking on to the Como Tomo brand, which is that wider base. So I bought all Dr. Brown's, which is like the narrow base, 1,000,000-piece bottles. Looking back, I'm thankful she's taking Como Tomos because it's way easier for me to clean at night because there's 3 pieces as opposed to 5. But yeah, she just started taking those, and we haven't looked back, at least at daycare, since. She's still kind of finicky about taking it when she's at home because I think she knows, like, this is where my mom is and this is where I know I can get exactly what I want. Yeah. But she'll still take them at daycare without a problem, which is like the big picture. That's what I need. I don't care if she takes them at home. I'm here. And she's taken them for my husband a few times. It's a little bit of a fight, but she eventually will take them from him now at home. So, but daycare, that was it. I just needed her to do that because I have to go to work.
Oh, it's so tricky, isn't it? Wow. The stresses of working mom life, you don't know a lot of them until you have to do it yourself. Yeah. And it's a lot. Ooh.
Yes. Definitely a little bit of insanity, but we make it work.
Can you tell me, I'd love to know both what the hardest part of breastfeeding has been for you and also some of your favorite things. So I don't know if there's anything that really stands out in your mind as like the hardest part, but anything like that.
I think the hardest part for me, especially after the struggle with my oldest, was just knowing if the baby is getting enough. Because with my youngest, it was like, she was gaining weight well, but every now and then, like, if something seemed to flash back to like what's my oldest, I would just panic. I'm like, she didn't get enough. She wants to nurse again. What's going on? I was just so scared that she wasn't getting enough. That's the biggest worry. That's the thing I think I hate the most about breastfeeding is just, did they get a full feed? Are they actually full? Did my body produce enough for this feed?
Yeah. I think that's a stress for a lot of moms, especially once you start introducing a bottle and you can like see the numbers, and then it's like, well, how do I know how much they just took from the breast? And I think that's actually a stress for a lot of moms is how do you know they're getting enough? Or are they crying because they're hungry or because they need a diaper change? Did she even get any milk out last time she ate? Yep. That's a super common worry, I think. What was some of your favorite parts about breastfeeding?
I love the bonding, and for me, like, because things are going so well with my youngest, she just has these big chubby thighs and wrist rolls and like dents in her arms and the dimples, and I absolutely love looking at her knowing that every little roll and dimple is because of my milk and what my body did. And I just think it's so amazing what our bodies are capable of. And then just being able to visually look at my chubby little happy baby and be like, I did that. I think that's just like the coolest part of it. I love it so much.
I love it too. It is really cool. Especially like I always take a little minute at the 6-month mark with my babies and be like, before I start introducing other foods, like I totally did this to you. Like I grew you and I've sustained you completely or mostly up until this point. And it's a cool feeling. It's a cool feeling.
Yeah. I'm at that same season. I'm like, do I want to give you food? Because I'm just basking in the roles I created.
Right. I know. My husband's always like, is it time for food yet? I really want to feed them like some fun stuff. And I'm always like, not yet. I want the breastfeeding, to keep going. I don't know about you.
I love it. Yes, I'm the same way. I love it.
Yeah. All right. As we kind of wrap up here, is there any piece of advice that you would tell a new mom who's planning to breastfeed or friends or family? Is there anything you'd just kind of like to leave us with, some of the advice you've learned throughout your journey? I'd love to know.
Yes, like I said, I've said it multiple times, but ask to just be checked on and ask for help before there's a problem. And the big one, I think, is just realize in those early days, just because your baby is nonstop nursing, it's not necessarily that something is wrong, especially if you've got the good weight gain and you've been checked for everything that could be wrong. Your baby needs every little bit they can get from you in those early days, and it is just so important to, give into those needs, nurse on demand, don't look at the clock, and just go from there, and it will all work out.
Yeah. That's perfect. I love that so much. It really will. And the beginning weeks are often the hardest for many moms, but hang in there, ask for help, and just trust your instinct. I love that.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Jessica, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to chat with me this morning. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I really appreciate you having me on. I was happy to share my story, and I hope that it helps somebody along their way.
Yeah, I know that it will. You can find a bunch of links from today's chat down in the show notes and some other helpful things. So go ahead and check that out. And we'll see you guys on the next episode. Thanks, Jessica.
Thank you.